What if your happy place could be at work? We all know that life can be chaotic. We're constantly juggling work, family, and social obligations. Finding ways to connect with ourselves and recharge is more important than ever. That's why joy spaces are becoming so popular. In this video, Marissa Heyl of Inclusive Wellness Design explains how these spaces transform the corporate arena, giving us the perfect environment to perform joyfully and optimally in a more balanced state. Thank you so much for being here on the show. Make sure to subscribe so you get future notifications, and you are about to go on a wellness-driven ride. I'm so excited for our guest today, guys. Let me introduce her. And this is kind of a longer biography, but there's so much in it, and I really wanted to share it all. Marissa is an anthropologist, designer, and storyteller passionate about creating environments that promote wellness and equity in the workplace, featuring pieces by marginalized artists worldwide. She was named one of the top 50 entrepreneurs in Dallas in 2021 for her two social impact ventures focused on empowering women through design. In 2019, Marissa founded Etico, a major BIPOC, if I said that right, a woman-owned sustainable boutique based in Fort Worth, Texas, that celebrates handcrafted pieces focused on people and the planet. She's partnered with women artisans in India and Mexico to create body positive, fair trade clothing for Symbology, an ethical fashion label she founded in 2012 that merges handcraft fabrics with trend forward style. She merges her anthropology and social justice background into her designs, celebrating the culture symbolism imbued into each motif to connect people worldwide. Marissa's inspiration to start Symbology developed from her research as a UNC Mahatma Gandhi Fellow and later as the Duke Leadership Fellow at 10,000 Villages. Marissa has worked with many artisan communities in India, the West Bank, Mexico, and the Philippines over the past 15 years. She holds a degree in journalism and anthropology from the University of North Carolina. Wow, what a bio. Please help me welcome Marissa Heyl. Hi, Marissa.
Hey, so great to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. I am just thrilled to have you on this platform because you're doing so many amazing things. And if, outside of what I just read, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Nice to meet you all. I am Marissa. I am now based in Oak Cliff, but a lot of my community is in Fort Worth from when I had my store. And I absolutely love the DFW area and just kind of crossing the different borders around here and learning about the Metroplex. I am excited in this journey. I've been part of the entrepreneurial community for several years, which I think is really thriving and exciting. And I'm really excited to be part of this movement to democratize wellness and mental health in shared spaces. And so I've been working on really leaning into that community that we have here and helping to bring the best of different sciences and human behavioral studies and people with different backgrounds so that we can create spaces that allow as many people as possible to thrive and live the best life possible.
Oh man, that's just cool. That's just cool. That's exactly what, you know, I want to present to the world on this show. So tell me, Marissa, a little bit, how did you get interested in, and it sounds like even through school, with the social aspect, and you were really fascinated by these things to begin with. But how did you start going into the social and mental and all of those aspects of day in, day out and how that interacts with us?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in design since I was a little kid, and I was very creative. I'd always wanted to be a fashion designer, but I found the industry really superficial and exploitive the more I got to learn about it.
Mm,
Um, and it was through my visit to 10,000 villages as a high school student that I learned about the impact of fair trade and how we could kind of leverage our consumer culture for good. And it was through design and that storytelling, the marketing, that I could see this beautiful pashmina scarf that a woman made in India, how she was able to support her children. And that's what prompted me to go to India. I went to visit artisan groups in slum areas in Mumbai and also in rural villages where in the west of Gujarat, kind of near the border with Pakistan, where there's no written language. And so they actually use embroidery as a way to record their history and communicate their identities. So I found that role of textiles
mm,
really fascinating. And it's something that most of the world has really operated on, are these maybe kind of informal craft sectors, but it's actually when we combine them all together, it's a huge valuation, a huge potential, particularly for women artisans to earn an income. And if we do that transparently and through fair trade principles, there's a lot of opportunities there. So my with me starting Symbology 11 years ago, that's my clothing line. I was able to work and empower artisan women in India and Mexico. But I really want to expand that more broadly the more that I get to learn about mental health and
mm,
and the multifaceted elements of wellness. And I think that the sense of multiculturalism and also giving credit to where a lot of um, design and healing modalities come from, which is frankly not really from what the Western world. It's not from the US, it's not from Europe, but it's a lot from those cultures that have been marginalized and oppressed. And that's a bit of the kind of guiding principle of me starting inclusive wellness design and really including diversity and inclusion in the same sentence as wellness, because I think that they need to be explored as an intersectional framework.
mm. So, and that would make sense going back on your comment you just made about they have experienced something so drastically different, than what we're used to here in the US. And so I want to also go back to the patterns that you talked about. um, and how it's really a sense of communication. So now I kind of have a different picture in my mind when I look at the patterns you have on your work, your clothing that you have, and how they could be really making more of a statement than you think.
Yes, that's what we would say is, my tagline was that, symbology makes fair trade sexy.
Mm,
And we would have every dress would be, a statement, and not just kind of in the fashion statement traditional sense that you walk into a room and everyone's heads turn and you kind of are making a bold entrance, but also the statement of your values and literally embodying and wearing your values. And so I love the viral kind of uh, marketing opportunity in some ways of clothing, and in design in general. I think There's so many ways to kind of maybe even more subtly than working in maybe in an activist role, because that's my background. Started in human rights activism and some political activism, but realized that to get everyone on board, that's where stories and design come into play, because that's something that everyone experiences. Clothing, these
Yeah.
shared spaces, that's where we can really do some great work to democratize social movements. So that's kind of the secret sauce, or the underlying thread to what I do. And so, yes, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. It's like why people tattoo themselves. You were talking about this is really wearing your values.
Mhm.
And so if you're okay with it, I would love to bring in just a couple of our first photos we have of you. Um,
Sure.
just to give the audience an idea of what we're talking about. But this is first when you have traveled abroad, and tell us a little bit about this photo.
Yeah, it's with my pink hair days. That was a fun time. I actually, that was from a trip. I usually go to India once a year for about 4 to 6 weeks to work on my upcoming collections. So sampling and production, and meeting, reconnecting with the artisans that I've been working with. And so that was in, I think it was 2017, and was working on a very special order from Rachel Zoe. So Rachel Zoe, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she is a celebrity stylist and now a fashion mogul. But even my mom, who's not a particular fashionista, like knew who she was because she had a show on Bravo. But she is fantastic and has had a women founded theme to her subscription box, the box of style. And so that was our largest order, which helps lead to other orders and recognition. But that was 27,000 scarves that we made for her box. And we were
Wow.
able to train and give employment, sustained employment, to a large number of women, which is the goal. I've been working with my core. They're called master craftswomen because there's in block printing, which is what we really specialize with symbology. It's hand stamping the fabric. And it's such a specialized skill set that only some people can do that. It's an art form. But for this order, yes, there we go. Perfect photo. So yes, that's Geeta, one of our artisans. They're printing that shirt dress or a pair of pajamas. We use that print in a few different garments. And so the Rachel Zoe box of style, we were able to do screen printing, which is a little bit quicker and a
Mm.
little less specialized. And we were able to train a lot more women for that. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and this is I mean, because it's pressed like this, they have to really make sure it's aligned and it's intentional, and I think that's so beautiful. I mean, just to think that your clothing is created that way, we've been so far from that for so long, it seems, with mass production, that this is a really beautiful, special, and unique thing that you are providing, and, um again, I love, the symbology around it. I love the name that you created because it is just that, and really having something meaningful on you, a value statement. So here's an example of some of those designs, and they're beautiful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I love the almost spiritual quality that we see in handmade arts, and I think no matter how technologically advanced we become, it's always it's something that's really human that unites us. Is our handmade things and handmade art, and that's something that will always sustain us. And help us feel connected to each other. So that's a big focus for symbology and for my next venture, the inclusive wellness design as well. Is celebrating that shared humanity.
Yes. We're going to go into our first commercial. And when we come back, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about, the inclusive wellness design. And I'm really looking forward to that. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm April Hove, the Managing Director of the Fort Worth, Texas chapter of eWomen Network. I'm so excited that you stopped to watch this video. I've got good news for you. You have just discovered an international network of women entrepreneurs who are committed to helping you achieve, succeed, and prosper. We are on a mission to help 1 million women entrepreneurs each achieve $1 million in annual revenue. Here at eWomen Network, we have a complete success system that supports you every step of the way in building and growing your business. You being here right now is no accident. We're supposed to know about you. We want to meet you to find out how we can help you, as well as learn about what you have to offer. With over 500,000 women connecting through 118 chapters across the US, Canada, Australia, and the UK, you are never alone. If this is resonating with you, please go to ewomennetwork.com/Fort Worth. Notice too my contact information. I invite you to reach out to me and check out our upcoming in-person and online events. I am really looking forward to introducing you to our community. All right, so let's talk about this inclusive design, this inclusive wellness design that you have now created. What made you go from, to the sustainable fashion, did I get that right?
Yeah.
To the inclusive design.
Yeah, I started that store, Edico. It's on Magnolia Avenue, or it was, in October of 2019. So a few months before the pandemic hit. And it was a beautiful experiment and experience with other local women entrepreneurs who had beautiful handmade items that all had a focus on sustainability. And I think, but it was hard. We went through having to shut the store down during lockdown and then reopened I think in May. I opened as soon as I could because we had a cooperative. We all kind of relied on each other, and especially me being the founder, the person who helps to organize everything in the store and was the face of the store, especially at that time. It was important that we kind of get back in as much as we could, as soon as we could. I think it was it was hard. I was selling clothes and we were selling gift items and people really weren't going anywhere. And it was a tough thing, but I will say that the community in Fort Worth was fantastic. And I learned more about, I think being in the sustainable fashion space, it's mostly a white women space. And it's important to extend a seat at the table. And this was coming from other conversations with entrepreneurs I had, with some of the members that we had, and kind of making sure to take a little bit of extra effort to extend that invitation and to create community partnerships so that we had, by the end of that year, a majority of the brands as BIPOC owned. And that was an important priority for me. I've mostly thought about and worked in an international development capacity. So thinking about diversity and equity and transparency in supply chains and empowerment, but for women at that global level. But this was an opportunity for me to also look locally and what are we doing to support each other. And so, so that was part of it. Was, we collectively went through a traumatic experience as a world, and I started learning more about mental health. I had a lot of holistic healers come into my store, and we had these incredible conversations about healing and the multisensory components to it. and learned about a lot of things and the origins of where these practices come from, and meditation, and even like a cacao ceremony, and Ayurveda, that these are non-Western traditions that are really important in our journey to discovering all that being human and being a healthy human can entail. And I want to make sure that that credit is given. So my mom also got diagnosed with Alzheimer's
Oh,
at
sorry.
that time, and so I've become really interested in brain health. And there's
Mm,
a lot of intersectionality with brain health and the environment, and the design of our environment, multisensory components, and other healing. So that's something I'm learning about and exploring in my designs. Um, and it's also an opportunity to give representation and celebrate the stories of underrepresented artists who are local and global artisans in these shared spaces. So, thinking about airports and corporate offices, universities, hospitals, nursing homes, places that maybe aren't overflowing with joy, but why can we not maybe re-envision them and
yeah.
uh, and make them spaces for that shared experience, for a joyful experience or a healing experience, and kind of take the best of hospitality design and resort design when you go to travel, or spa design, but bring them into these places.
Marissa, I think it's brilliant.
Oh,
And the reason is because your goal is to help transform, you know, how our health and wellness, right? How we show up. But instead of meeting it at an individual level and going just strictly residential or what have you, and meeting people one on one, you decided to go out and make a bigger impact. Because when you bring this, you know, the science backed, you know, environment that you're bringing and creating to the workforce, to the hospitals, to the schools, you really are you're impacting hundreds of thousands of people instead. And when they see these environments, it's just going to be this ripple effect of, okay, well, I really love my work environment. I'm going to recreate that at home. So it's just a much larger impact.
yes, and I was speaking at a larger corporation last year on a panel about sustainability, and that same day they released their ESG report. And ESG stands for environmental social governance. And environmental largely pertains to sustainability measures that the corporation is instituting. And S is really where I see my life's purpose and this venture existing, and that's social. That's where a lot of mental health,
Mm.
corporate wellness initiatives exist, but also DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oftentimes, those leaders are not speaking to each other; they're not interacting to create environments. But I think that that's something that we want to change, is to bring everyone to the table,
Yeah.
so that programmatic efforts are also coming into play around mental health and the built environment. So it's a little bit of unsiloing some of the siloing that happens with a lot of corporations, but there's a lot of great opportunities there. And almost every corporation has these ESG reports that are published every year. And these are metrics that they're held accountable to in terms of supplier diversity. So that's one of the focuses of my company, is working with a diverse group of global and local marginalized artists, and creating an impact through the purchases from the corporate buyers as well.
Right. That makes perfect sense, and definitely with your background, because you're already doing that. You are already familiar with that, with outsourcing from those. So, if you don't mind, could we add these other photos to the screen? Because I want to share
Sure.
what this is. This is the shop that
Yeah.
you had. Yeah.
Yes. So that's Kristen's organic skincare line that we had there. It was there were 16 brands at the height of the store, but that's a little snapshot of the inside of the shop. And so storytelling has always been a big piece of what I want to do. So there was signage, and we had embedded iPads as well that had the handmade story showcased, because every item we had in the store was handmade. And so showcasing that story and making an immersive and educational experience, in addition to, an elevated boutique experience, was kind of was the goal for the store.
Yeah, and I can definitely see, the design aspect of it. It's so clean and fresh and inviting. So I really like that.
Thank you.
And now we're moving into some absolutely beautiful photographs. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Yeah, so I work with Victoria Davis, who is a feng shui interior designer, to design spaces that create joy. So this is one of the joy spaces that we designed, and it's called Florecer Lounge. Florecer means to bloom in Spanish, and it's really in kind of an embodiment or illustration of the aesthetics of joy, bright colors, patterns, things that universally make us feel joy, regardless of our cultural or social or geographic background. It's really fascinating to learn about the studies of that and how that it affects our well-being and our mental state. So really leaning into color, which we see all over the place from our travels. So I really got inspiration from my trips to Jaipur, which is where I've been working with artisan women for my clothing line. It's called the Pink City. So you'll see that beautiful shade of salmon pink there
Mhm.
in the backgrounds. That's inspired by Jaipur. And then we have elements from Oaxaca, which is an artisan, very artisan rich area in Mexico, where mezcal comes from. Alebrijes, if you're familiar with them, these are the magical creatures that bring good fortune and protection.
Well, yeah, who doesn't need that?
Yeah, I just I there's so much joy that I experience in these places that are incredibly rich with artwork. They're known globally as tourist destinations for this artisanship, and I'm also in this. This is a really fun chair, that a flower chair, and so who doesn't want to sit on a flower chair during their break at work. And then also bringing in elements, so we've got BIPOC artists who have created the artwork on the walls, and then we have biophilic design, which is basically just bringing nature
Yeah.
indoors. And there's so much, it's incredible, the impact on productivity and healthcare, reduced healthcare costs, just from simply moving some plants indoors.
So
But if we can
so,
create
yeah,
that
Marissa,
Mhm.
are there studies now that, measurements that people have made based on these environmental factors?
Yes, good question. I'm going to bring up my I've got 40% higher profit margins from retail stores that have greenery and daylight. There's certain elements, but lighting is a big piece of that. Natural
Mhm.
light, um, plants, also natural materials that contribute to higher profit margins, higher productivity. One study shows $2,000 of savings per employee per year
Wow.
by incorporating daylight and plants into an office space, an 88% improvement in well-being. So this is just human design. This is what our brains were designed for. The
Mhm.
reason too, it's really interesting historically, um, we have the same brains that we did when we were hunter gatherers.
Mhm.
The reason that we appreciate bright colors, and that brings us a sense of joy and good feelings and oxytocin and dopamine, is because we associate it with vitality and
Mm.
with ripe fruits and vegetables and things that are good for us to eat. And so I think that that's really interesting, the kind of, deeply embedded connections that we have. But yet most of our corporate spaces, our public spaces are gray boxes. Um,
Well,
and
Marissa, this makes me want to go eat a grapefruit.
yeah,
Get this like, I want to eat healthier and, um, yeah, and fresher, and so I get that, I can feel that in my body where I look at this and I'm just, like,
right.
automatically, "Oh, I wanna do better, I wanna be better, this feels right, it feels good."
I love that. Yes, that's part of it. It's just inspiring. Yeah, you feel a little bit like you're at a resort, but you're not. You're still doing work. And I think also, we companies have to figure out a way to bring folks back into the workplace in this hybrid environment. And a
Mhm.
lot of folks don't want to go back. They
Right.
want to work from home. And especially for minorities, there's an element of psychological safety, that's also really important when we talk about inclusive design
Mm.
and representation as well. And so, I mean, that's a really big challenge to solve because we know that there are increased, uh, or I guess decreased health and well-being and shorter lifespans for minorities because of constant stressors.
Wow.
And I think that that's something that we're trying to solve through the environment and that representation, creating a sense of belonging and safety in the workplace is really important. But also making the office a destination instead of an obligation.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you create a space for people that want to get up in the morning and go to because it's that cool, and then, you've definitely done your job. Tell me a little bit about this photo.
Yeah, so the joy spaces are one concept, and the idea is to really connect people, so that it's not just socializing and building trust, which you can't really do from a screen, but also inspiring creative thought and innovation within the company. So that's the idea of the lounge. That's why you have a communal table. Sorry, I could go
Mm.
on and on about this from the previous slide. Now, this is another type of specific microenvironment in the workplace that I'm calling our sanctuary spaces. And these are actually sanctuary pods that are designed for individual moments of connection with oneself. So it's a
Mm.
restoration and relaxation space. And I don't know if you have the interior image
Yes,
of that. There you go.
how's that?
So what we thought about for the design of this space is that we want it to be immersive and multisensory. So when someone walks in, they can select an energy or an atmosphere. There's three to choose from. One is focus, one is relaxation, and one is elevate. So relax, focus, and elevate. And we have a soundscape. So I'm working with a local sound healer and DJ to develop soundscapes for each one of these three energies.
Mm.
We're also working with a scent maker to create healing scents that focus on these three energies as well. And then also a mixologist um, who is creating adaptogenic zero proof cocktails that have brain boosting herbs and other things in the drink, but it feels elevated because it's a cocktail type of experience. But the idea is that you can come into this room and really and also the color of the light will change depending on the energy that you select. And that bed that's in there is called a tune bed, and it is a vibroacoustic technology that aligns with a sound bath that is through a headset. But the idea is that there's hundreds of frequency points on that bed. So depending on the experience you want to feel, within 20 minutes, you can have your stress reduced up to 54%. You can have your circadian rhythms corrected and parts of your two hemispheres of your brain aligned, and a lot of really incredible takeaways from that technology. So
Marissa,
it's
I have to
so cool.
interrupt. I hope that our audience is just as inspired and excited about this now because that is just so cool. And I'm very curious. See, we got a heart. The audience is saying, yeah, it is just amazing. And why didn't we come up with that, you know, ages ago, right? And blessings to you because wow, I am so pleased that this is really the up and up and such a popular concept now, or it's starting to gain traction um, because it's awesome. I'm curious for my own, selfish wants. Is there any spaces being created for the entrepreneurials out there that, go to shared workspaces?
Yeah, I want to. I've visited a local workspace, and we'll have to see if they're interested in it. Because I want to do some more beta testing as well. Um, there's a lot of meditation rooms or restoration rooms that are usually just a chair in a gray box, and so we know that like having maybe sometimes a lack of stimulation or a place that's just designed for that is important, but I really want to elaborate on that. So instead of maybe, because these pods are a little bit more of a heavier spend, so a larger corporation might be able to foot that bill, but there's ways that we can work with smaller companies to elevate and enhance their meditation rooms. So we can provide, there's sustainable acoustic tiling on the walls so you can absorb sound, because that's a big challenge in
Mm.
corporate offices. And there's, yeah, I think there's a lot of different opportunities with that.
My brain goes when I was in law enforcement, we see such traumatic events and traumatic experiences. And depending on the department, the agency, and the resources, the way that those things were handled weren't effective, period. And so you have these first responders going out there and experiencing all of these traumatic events,
Mhm.
and they have no way of really releasing that. And this just looks like such a perfect, step in the right direction of something of a start in healing, when people. So yeah, I think it would be great to bring this into hospitals, or if you could get it into, let's say, hospitals where there's a lot of trauma going on, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the people, the first responding people there, and then other agencies can come in and use it, because I know that there's a lot of shared spaces within that. So anyway, that's where my mind goes based on my
Yeah.
past history. But they're
Agreed.
fabulous.
Agreed. And it's been an interesting journey because I don't have a background in medicine, but some of my advisors do. And I'm learning about some of the politics of medicine and things that are maybe considered a bit more holistic and are not in the realm of clinical medicine are a bit undervalued. And I
Yeah.
think actually getting this into hospitals might be a heavier lift and something that that might happen later than sooner. Ironically
Mhm.
enough, in our primary spaces of healing, there might be the most resistance. And I'm learning to. I'm not really exactly sure why, but there's some of that cultural attitude, and I think a little bit of dismissiveness um, around other healing modalities that maybe aren't Western in origin and thought.
Well, Marissa, I am a big advocate for you. I can tell you that. All right. What is this cool room? My goodness.
This is a meditation space. One of my clients, I can't really release too many names because we're still in conversations at this point, but a corporate client based in Dallas. They were telling me that they needed spaces for reflection and gratitude. And so we have there's a couple of slides that we had designed. You'll see in the next slides, but these are spaces as you're coming out of the pods that are really meant to encourage relaxation. So this would be a meditation room that you could do a group meditation at, but then there's some other cocoon style chairs, which are great for people on the who are neurodivergent. Because that cocoon shape creates a sense of safety and comfort. But then we have like a hanging chair that creates a floating sensation, which is also good for tapping into a meditative space or another altered state of consciousness. And think about being able to do that in the workplace. So, it's really all these designs where we have some healing hallways that we're also working on, which are instead of utilizing or thinking about these places that aren't thought of as much as in the kind of interior design realm. Maybe some artwork is thrown up on a wall, or maybe it's just a blank wall. But those hallways can be moments that we can encourage a small moment of stretch or a little bit of a small breath work or meditation session. So we're designing some things that don't take up as much physical real estate and are a lower price point, but really can have some great moments of relaxation and restoration on the way to the bathroom, for instance.
Yeah. And so many good things. And I could even take it back to, I think so much of why I get excited about this is when I was in school for criminal justice and through my journey, with the law enforcement background, the first time that I learned about the broken window theory. And what that is if there's a broken window in a neighborhood, the chances and likelihood of there to be more chaos, disruption, more crime is higher. And then when you fix that broken window and you clean up the environment, then those high numbers start to go down, and then people start to appreciate their environment around them, and they have a sense of pride. And so it has always fascinated me, our environment. And when I was out in the field, I saw that. Marissa, I saw when I, responded to people's homes and, who just were in upset, their environment was an upset. It was chaotic. It was a mess, and there's a pattern there. Absolutely. I want to bring in a couple of the comments. We just had a few, and also to our audience. And for those who are watching the replay, you can always leave a comment, engage with us. And if you happen to be watching the replay, you can leave a comment and we'll respond later on. Dr. Tina J. Ramsey gave you 3 hearts. She also said, beautiful. Yeah, of course it is. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so we'll walk right into our next commercial. And then when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about all of the creations you are making, Marissa.
Thanks. Talk soon.
Hello, everyone. I am Kim Jacobs, the host of The Kim Jacobs Show, and you all know who's right here with me, Dr. Les Brown. How are you, Dr. Brown?
I'm blessed and highly favored. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time you want to give yourself a competitive edge. If you got a message, you have some knowledge or experience, a story, or if you want to do something adventurous and exciting with your life that can increase your credibility, expose you to millions of people, I'm encouraging you to have your own talk show. I used to have a talk show. That one talk show catapulted me to another level. Now there are more people watching the internet, as you are aware, than television. Yes. Come on, somebody.
That's right.
Dr. Kim Jacobs, she trained people on how to have their own talk show. She will train you how to do that. And now with me working, partnering with her, now you have the combination of an audience, expansive audience. We have over 4 million people in all of our platforms, and the coaching you need to grow your business, to grow your multi-level marketing organization, to draw more attention to yourself in this noisy economy. Go ahead, Kim.
So in the training that I do, Les, I actually do a 6-week training. It's 1 hour per week. And each week I meet with the individuals one-on-one. We go through and we talk about all of the things that's necessary for a show to become a reality. We go from how to actually identify your focus area, what's going to be your ideal customer that's going to be tuning in. We'll talk about how to get guests, how to get sponsorship, how to go about getting your lighting, your branding, and your banners, and everything that you need to know. And guess what, Les? They own their own content at the end of the day.
And that's exciting. Now, if you're ready to create a shift in your business and in your life and increase your cash flow, I want you to go to KimJacobsConsulting.com. It's right there on the screen, KimJacobsConsulting.com. You know, people say opportunity knocks on every door. Right. No. Opportunity stands by silently waiting for you to recognize it. So I want you to recognize that this is a time for you. This is an incredible time to have your own talk show. It establishes a level of credibility.
Yes.
And by being exposed to people on a regular basis, it allows you to strategically begin to impact and attract your audience. She can take you in a place in yourself that you can't go by yourself. So go to KimJacobsConsulting.com. That's KimJacobsConsulting.com. Did I say KimJacobsConsulting.com? Yes, you did. Very good. Make sure you go there and sign up for the coaching, and we're looking forward to working with you. You have something special. You have greatness within you. That's my story, and that's Kim's story, and we're sticking to it. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're back. And I just get so jazzed about this, Marissa. And sometimes I'm like, April, you should have gone into interior design. And you know what? I did try to do that in college once, and I took a few classes, and it was so intimidating and overwhelming. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to leave that up to the smart people like you.
I think it's all, I didn't study fashion design in school, but I was surrounded with people who said, it's not rocket science and you can figure it out. And I did. And that's what we're doing here, because I think it's all collaborative. I love working with other people. And I think that's entrepreneurship and problem solving to a T, is that you try to open source as much as you can and get advice. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. So I appreciate the accolades. That's very thoughtful. But I also think, it's if you have the eye for it and you kind of ask for help and also support others in your journey. That's kind of been my experience with my ventures along the way. And in some ways it's made me a little, I don't know, fearless in some ways. And then also, but in some, I don't know, it's an empowering journey, I will say.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I just love what you're doing and love what you're creating.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I want to support you in any way possible, because I truly do believe in that. I mean, that is why the Wellness Driven Life Show was born, is to, try to impact on a bigger level, on a worldwide level, where we get, ideas and stories and messages and tips and tricks out to people to, help better their lives.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Well, thank you. And this is great that you're giving this platform, because, we all need to learn and democratize, just help raise awareness around mental health and all the different ways that we can live a more fulfilling life. And it's not just talk therapy and the cognitive behavioral therapy that I think a lot of people are familiar with. There's so much more to it, such a rich and kind of always evolving field. And it's just fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, and you and I were having a little conversation before we jumped on live, and it was about I was now I'm a little embarrassed, but I was sharing with you my weight journey. You know, I had this traumatic experience happen in my life, and it really got me off track. I went way off the rails, and I wasn't taking care of myself like I was used to
Yeah.
because I was just being in that trauma state, you know, and I was learning how to heal myself in other ways. And but you know, we were discussing that, and it's you were saying, and maybe I'll just let you say it, but it's taking those small steps.
Yeah. I myself, I mean, I think a lot of us have gained weight during the pandemic, and I think we need to just give ourselves some grace and some permission to just be and be grateful that we're here, and I think we're just so hard on ourselves, especially as women, and you know, issues with body positivity and body image, which is really been a key thing for me as a designer, you know, trying to have inclusive designs, inclusive sizing, and really just have women wear whatever they want that makes them feel good and not be bound to a specific silhouette or color, you know, just to celebrate that. So I think that the creation of habit forming, the science behind habit formation is really interesting. So that is also a guiding principle in the environments we're designing. And I myself have a really hard time being structured and creating routine. I'm a creative, and so I want my every day to be different and fun and an adventure. But that's not that's not how we kind of necessarily grow in a specific way. But I do want to make healthy habit making sexy. Like that was always my thing with symbology: make sustainability and fair trade sexy. Now let's make wellness sexy and make it just attainable. And so how is it that we can do that through design and through environmental cues? So maybe it's you know, a slight shift in the color, the lighting. Like lighting has such a big role in our mental health. If we can shift the lighting a little bit, if we can have, instead of just making a coffee in the morning, if you can make one of these adaptogenic cocktails and you kind of linger and you're mixing and you feel a little bit fancy and you're also connecting with your coworker, you know, it's how do you create these moments of connection and lingering, and also breaks. There's a lot of science behind the importance of taking breaks. We have these ultradian rhythms, which are like circadian rhythms, but shorter. And that's at point we have productivity, like peaks and energy peaks in the day. And then we have valleys. And in those valleys, we have to take a break. That's the standard kind of 20-minute break that you might have heard of that's recommended for productivity. We need to take that because that's our body telling us that that our cells need to regenerate, and we need to have that moment of relaxation in order to come back more refreshed. So one interesting example, I think, is so I have a client in Austin that is a Swedish company. And in Sweden, all across the country, they have a twice daily break that is called fika. And it's a coffee break at 10 a.m. and at 2 p.m. And it's just, you put your work down, you go get a drink, you connect with your coworkers. There's no work that's being done. Well, the Americans, because this is coming from leadership, this is the CEO, this is the founder. They're saying, okay, let's take the fika. But some of the American staff have a hard time taking the breaks and are resistant to it. Yeah. And I think that's so fascinating that even with that example of very human and generous leadership, because I think that's another key piece to the environment is our leadership and our culture. What is the company culture that we have? And it's like setting that example, right? But we still have resistance. And I think it's just, we've just bought into this glorification of being burned out, essentially, or on the verge of burnout and being hyper productive. But actually, if we don't take the breaks, we lose our productivity. We have the brain fog. We kind of become a shell of our former self. So it's just really important to kind of unlearn some of the, I think, damaging stuff that we've kind of picked up and been socialized to believe, and especially as Americans. And I think that there is more pushback. That's why we see people quietly quitting or just flat out resigning. The Great Resignation. This is employees and have the upper hand and for the first time. And I think that's a really exciting chance to reimagine what workplace looks like. What is work actually? How does it function? And how can we work together to create something that's not just a slog or, a 60, 80, hour a week thing that you commit your life to, but how can we create an edifying experience and a community?
Yeah, and you definitely bring community in too with your designs, and I think that's so important. I think that it's been easy for people to become separated and just go into their recluse aspects and just keep their head down and do their job, and it's not about that. I mean, we're better together, right? So I think that's really, really cool what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's not just me. I have to give credit to all of the partners and advisors that I'm working with who are helping to inform that design too.
Yeah. So can you bring in your team?
Sure.
I want to show off your community.
Yes.
Here we go.
So these are some of the experts that I'm working with. And I don't know if I have time to go over everyone, but Tamara Johnson is the founder of the first Black-owned yoga studio in Fort Worth.
Awesome.
And she creates these micro meditation, yoga, and breathwork sessions that you can select in the sanctuary pods or in the hallways. And we're also working on classes and lunches with all of these advisors and their work, because I think education is a big piece of what we're doing in addition to the design. And then Victoria is the interior designer I'm working with, and she integrates feng shui principles. So even in the pod, there's running water. So we kind of highlight the different elements that are a key part of feng shui design. She's incredibly talented. And Yanira is my neurodiversity advisor. So talking about creating safe spaces, places that don't have too much stimuli to really serve a larger population. We need to be building spaces that are not otherizing for people. So if someone is on the spectrum or they are handicapped or, have just in any kind of capacity like that, we want to be looking at universal design elements, ADA, which is Americans with Disabilities Act, like ADA compliant spaces, so that everyone feels that sense of belonging and you're not having to necessarily go into a separate room or have to have special equipment that's just for you, because that still otherizes you. So that we're really trying to take all of those things into account. Nidia Cardenas is my human energy advisor. And so when we're talking about these peaks and valleys of energy and how to optimize productivity and maintain our energy, and also at the same time really be able to say no to some things to protect our energy. She's been a great advocate and advisor for me in that space. And also Faith Geiger. Faith is my colleague. We just spoke on a wellness panel last week at TCU, and she does executive coaching for C-suite executives. And she talks about how outer leadership really comes from inner leadership of ourselves, and really
Yeah.
focusing on mental health and our own personal journeys, so that we can be better and more generous leaders. So I love working with all these folks who are all local to DFW. It's just such a rich group. And then I'm also working with local BIPOC businesses. So with this multisensory design, so really bringing a sense of place that is local to Dallas Fort Worth, and I think that's important. So Deja Board's gallery in Oak Cliff, where I currently live, is an amazing gallery that focuses on showcasing the work of BIPOC, LGBTQ, and disabled artists. And she has beautiful curations, and I'm really excited to do some storytelling with her in these shared spaces. And then the sound healer that I was mentioning before, Asa Ace, she's incredible as well and is making the soundscapes. Kimberly Scott of Potent Pores is making the adaptogenic drinks. So we're really kind of looking at all these, a lot of these different sensory elements, and how do we create an immersive and healing space. And then we have some healing teas made by Chastity and Simone. And then, of course, we have Tamara there as well. So I think it's important that we're, just like I said, extending a seat at the table, and I'm learning a lot as well in the journey of creating more equitable places, and places that create a sense of belonging and frankly thriving.
Yeah. Tell me, what is next for you?
Well, I am relatively new into this journey of space design. So we are working on an interdisciplinary design program at TCU. So we want to have students co-designing spaces of wellness and sanctuary, but also the joy and innovation spaces. So we're working on that for the summer. And then I can't disclose too many of the other conversations, but one interesting community-focused project is in Oak Cliff. There is a historically Mexican and Mexican-American business strip called Jefferson Avenue near Bishop Arts. And I was actually working for a developer in 2021 that is doing a lot of really cool designs in Bishop Arts. And I was hoping, and as their marketing director, to be that they would be a bit more inclusive of the Latino community, which that area is majority Latino. There just wasn't any interest, but I did find out that they were looking to buy up a lot of the property on Jefferson Avenue, a block away. And a lot of other developers are looking to kind of to buy up property and gentrify that area. And so I'm working with a Latino activist group and trying to create a plan to rebuild some of the facade designs, create new signage, new just coats of paints, and bringing some parklets, which are just taking some of the space that's just street area, but making it into a plant-filled little space for people to sit and dine, and take bars off of windows. You talked about the broken glass experience, or the theory behind that. And there's some interesting correlation with taking bars off of windows and that creating a sense of safety. And so there's some interesting work, some interesting things that I'm learning about in terms of urban planning. But I'm really excited to take some of the same, the aesthetics of joy, those principles of bright colors and patterns and things that, of course, we see all over Mexico, and really incorporating that into the design there, so that it becomes something that is really celebrating the heritage of that street, which used to be a really thriving area. There's a lot of quinceañera shops, great taquerias and fruterias. But it's almost, even though it's a block away from Bishop Arts, there's almost no integration of the spaces. And so I want to figure out a way to bring more people there. And I think it's through some of that storytelling and design is a key way to do it.
Oh, well, that's exciting to me because being new to the area, I have been looking for somewhere to find some roasted green chilies for my green chili. And so I'm going to be venturing out and heading out so I get to see exactly what you're talking about and, recreating that heritage, what you're speaking of. And that sounds incredible. And I love the colors, and Mexico is very colorful. And so you're really bringing that in. Cool things happening. Well, I want to let our audience know and make sure they know how to reach you or see at least your website. It's www.inclusivewellnessdesign.com. Again, that's www.inclusivewellnessdesign.com. That is also going to be in the description of these videos. So, gosh, tell me, is there any other way that we could reach you, or are you still making clothing? I loved some of the dresses that I saw. I love what you're wearing right now. Is that a design that you did?
It's not, unfortunately. I do more special occasion dresses, but I've also just, no, not at the moment.
Okay, well, you'll have to share your secrets, Melissa.
Yes.
Tell me.
Oh, yes. So this is a brand called Farm Rio, which is a sustainable brand out of Brazil. And I also love Osei Duro, OSEI space DURO. They work with artists and women in Ghana and have really beautiful designs. And then, of course, symbologyclothing.com is where you can find a lot of my dresses and jumpsuits and things like that. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was curious about. I was curious if you still had that clothing line. Very cool. Symbologyclothing.com. Yes?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Marissa, it has been more than a pleasure, more of a delight for me. And I know there's going to be people out there that get just as excited and jazzed about it. Is there any other last things that you want to share with our audience today here on the Wellness Driven Life Show?
Well, are there any questions that people had asked or we want to address, or just kind of a closing remark would be good?
A closing remark would be great.
Okay. I feel a little, put on the spot. Here's my thing. When we're thinking about leading, a more wellness driven life and incorporating these habits, I think it's important to tap into what lights you up or brings you joy. For me, that's a lot of color. It's good food. It's good drinks. It's good time spent with friends. And I think that that's part of our mental health. I know that, meditation for me, it's been a hard thing to practice every day. And I know a lot of people struggle with it. And that's something that I'm doing a little bit every day, but I'm also bringing in the rewarding elements. And I think that's part of our mental health, is that social connection. So I think it's instead of maybe viewing wellness and health and nutrition, and which can look like a lot of sacrifice, maybe just lean more into the pleasure. But know that if your pleasure is maybe unhealthy, just to do that in moderation. But I think giving ourselves some grace and just enjoying every day and being present is one of the most important things.
Oh, great message. Great message. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It truly was a joy to have you here, and want to thank you again. You're welcome back anytime. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I can't wait to speak with you further about how, I can best support you on your journey. I just love what you're doing, and all the other businesses that are on the same goal and route. So I want to tell our audience, thank you for being here. And this show wouldn't be here without you, without your generous contributions. You can donate to the Wellness Driven Life Show at www.thewellnessdrivenlifeshow.com. And when you do it on our website, you're left with an awesome email follow-up that you can keep for your records. So again, thank you so much. And until tomorrow, we will see you then. Goodbye for now.
Thank you so much.